This is my 7th time recording this video because I don't know how to say and formulate my words properly to get this point across because it's so damn important. So I guess I'll just start with saying the current society that we live in, men have never been weaker. There's never been a state in the entire existence of this world where men have been weaker than they are today. You can just look around and you can see it for yourself if you would just open your eyes and see things objectively for how they are and not based on how you think the world should be seen, based on what you heard from the mainstream media or that guy who you think cares about you but really doesn't. All he wants is your control and power. You see, traditional men went to war. They died. They provided. They protected. They did things they didn't want to do regardless of how they felt because they knew they had to do it because it was their duty. Traditional men. Traditional men did so many things that men nowadays, I can't even call them men anymore. Boys, children, people, aliens. That we don't do anymore. You see, those traditional men, they did all these things, these admirable things. They built the world. They climbed on skyscrapers with no harnesses, risking their life to do something for the greater good because it was more than just themselves. Men nowadays, boys, people nowadays are only so fixated on them. Them. How do I feel? How do I feel? How do I feel? Modern day men pretend they're females. They dress like them, they act like them, they pretend they are them to the point where they believe they are and cry because someone said they look a little stupid, because they do. Modern day men and traditional men are nowhere near the same. Not even close. You can even look at the studies. The average testosterone levels in the late 1990s, even the early 2000s, were 605 nanograms per deciliter. 605.39 to be precise here. And in 2015, so 10 years ago, not even today, 10 years ago, the average testosterone in a male was 451.22 nanograms per deciliter. That's within 15 years, and that was 10 years ago. If that in and of itself can't make you realize that there might be something going on, then you need to open your eyes. You need to look. And you need to find for the truth, because men are only getting weaker and weaker and weaker by the minute. Look around. Look around at the people who are proclaimed men. Heck, nowadays someone will say they're man, and you look and they got a fucking vagina. Who's really a man nowadays, right? And so many men are controlled by their feelings, and their feelings are influenced by social media, and social media is ran by the elites who want control. The higher-ups, the puppet masters, if you will. TikTok, for example, is owned by a company called ByteDance. This is a Chinese company who is legally obliged to give all of their data, all of TikTok's data, all of your data to the CPP, which is the Chinese government. I think it's CCP. Chinese Communist Party. This CCP, my bad. And on a first glance, Stefan, data. So what? Who cares? It's just what I like. Oh, no. You see, nowadays in China already, they have what is called a social credit system. A social credit ranking, if you will. They have cameras all over the place, and they can identify your face and find out who you are and what your ranking is. People on their phone have a little app that says what their social ranking is based on the things they say, the things they do, if they're late to work, early to work, how good of a citizen they are. As a matter of fact, a while back when there was big protests going on in China, some of the people would get locked into certain places because their QR code for the train or for getting out of the store didn't work anymore. And guess what happened? Then the police were able to come and lock them up because they could find them easier. This is just scratching the surface. This isn't even scratching the surface. This is the absolute most basic fundamental part of this. There's so much more once you look deeper into this. But even look at TikTok. If you open up TikTok nowadays, hey, maybe your little brother has TikTok. I know little kids who are 7 years old who have TikTok. 7. I don't even have TikTok, but I know people who have TikTok, and I've seen some of the stuff on there. You can open up TikTok, you start scrolling, next thing you know, you see 2 gay guys having sex. Complete nudity. Next thing you know, you see some OnlyFans chicks. Okay, and then you see some guy getting molested, and then some girl getting raped. What the fuck is going on? And we have somehow got to a point in our society where those things are somehow normal. And you wonder why there's an increase in rape. You wonder why there's an increase in all of these absolutely heinous, disgusting acts. And that's because we have normalized them. People look at them on a day-to-day basis. These things are now somehow projected as normal. What? How? Since when have we gotten a world where even porn is considered normal? You ask around anyone nowadays, this way porn is normal. What the fuck? How fucked up does our society have to be to the point where people say, yeah, porn is normal? Way back in the earlier days, when you go to Blockbuster to go buy your movies because they didn't have them online, they'd have a certain section that was 18 plus that was blocked off, and even kids couldn't walk in there. You couldn't watch the movies, you had to buy them, but you couldn't even walk to that section because they want to separate that from the kids. Because they have no right being there. And yet now 7-year-old kids can scroll TikTok freely and just see all this stuff. And we wonder why our world is so fucked up. We wonder why. But yet we don't ever care to look at why that may be. But we wonder why. But oh no, TikTok it's innocent. Don't even get me started on the dopamine aspect of TikTok. Does TikTok ever end? When you scroll, does it ever end? I don't know because I don't have it. But I've been told it doesn't. And you keep going and going and going. There was a experiment done, I think it was called Skinner Rat Box or something like that. And it was basically this idea where this scientist put these mice or rats in a box and gave them rewards. One group of mice got the same reward every time they pressed the lever to get the reward. The other group of mice, every single time that they pressed the lever, they would get a different reward. Sometimes a small one, sometimes a big one, sometimes not at all. These mice over here started to compulsively and obsessively press the lever like they're little TikTok fucking brain monkeys, spamming the fucking lever trying to get the rewards. Because they crave the idea that they never knew what was coming. And it's the same with TikTok. You never know what's going to happen. And you're constantly in the search for the best video. But what is the best video? Well, it doesn't exist. Because you never know what's going to happen. So you keep scrolling and scrolling and scrolling, scrolling and scrolling. The people who created TikTok did this purposely. They designed it this way to control your mind. And if they control your mind, they control your thoughts, and your thoughts control your actions, and your actions control your reality and your future. And so if they control the way you think, they control your life. Think about this. Use your brain and think. It's fucking insane. And it's something that flies over people's heads. It's why they live in an absolute matrix. Literally the Matrix. Go watch the movie. It is so applicable to the real life we live in that people look over and go, oh, it's just an innocent movie. It's not. It's more than just an innocent movie. And going back to the thing with TikTok, these people just scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll and scroll mindlessly. Don't even get me started on the fact that, what are you doing with your life? Scrolling? Watching other people, I wouldn't even say live their life, but just watching these absolutely unfathomable, very, I can't even describe the amount of the types of videos you'll find on there. But what they're doing with this is they're sexualizing young men and young women. They're over-sexualizing, over-stimulating, and exposing them to these sort of things. Right? Exposing them to this idea that, oh, sex is normal. Sex is fine. Well, guess what happens, right? When people sleep around a bunch. Well, here's what happens. Okay, all of these girls now inflate the amount of attention they get because all these guys are constantly horny, and so the guys always hit up the girls. And so now the girls who used to be 5 now think they're a 10 because all these guys are constantly hitting them up, and therefore these 10s who are actually 5s now have increased their ego and think that they should only sleep with the better guys, and so now they only want 10 guys. Here's the thing: is guys that are 10. Okay, work on themselves most of the time. And so they don't want some fucking hoe. And so they may sleep with this chick, but they don't actually want a serious relationship with her because she's not really wifey material. And so what happened is she'll just get thrown around. This is sad. I know. Trust me. This is horrible. And I feel so fucking bad for the woman because it's absolutely disgusting. And the men and the society to blame, but the men especially, for how fucking weak-minded we are. Right? What happens is these women get thrown around by all these different guys who don't actually want her, but will just use her because that's how fucked up the men are nowadays. That's what we've been led to believe, that that's okay somehow, right? How fucked up is that? And then what happens is now this girl can never find a serious relationship, so she has to settle for a guy that's less, and then she'll never be content with him because she can always reference back to these 800 other guys who she slept with who are way better than this guy. And you wonder why there's so many divorces. It's constantly over-sexualizing young men, young women, young people. There's this really good quote, which is that if you want to destroy any nation without war, create adultery or nudity common in the young generations, by Salahuddin Ayyubi. If you want to destroy any nation without war, create adultery or nudity common in the young generation. If you look at how common porn is nowadays versus 20 years ago, you will see a significant difference in the two. Back when I was 14, I didn't even know what porn was. The idea of porn, that word to me didn't mean anything. I didn't know what it was. Nowadays, there's kids who are 10 who are not only just watching porn, but these fantasies, right? Thank God that I don't watch porn. But I've heard some crazy stories about how the stuff that people watch isn't even just people having sex anymore. It's not just guy and the girl whoopity-doopity-doo having sex. It's these absolutely outrageous acts, these skits of like, oh, I'm your stepdad. And like, come fuck me. Like, what the fuck? Right? Or like, I don't even know if I can say this word I've said already in the video, but like rape. There's literally, I've heard of porn videos that are people fucking raping each other. And then it gets people's fantasies ticking like, oh, I like that. I like that. I like that. And you wonder why there's so many fucking crazy people in this world that shoot up schools and do all this stupid shit. It's because nobody can control their mind. They can't control their thoughts. If you look at every single school shooter in America the past couple of years, if you look at them objectively, you go, that guy doesn't look very stable. He doesn't look like somebody who can control his emotions. And he cannot. Because men who can control their emotions don't just go shoot up a school because they feel depressed. That's not how fucking real men work. Those are boys that do that. And that's because they've been brainwashed to think that way. They've been brainwashed to let out your feelings and cry and like feel sad all the time. And look what happens when we feminize men. And look what even happens to the woman. The women now have to become more masculine to make up for this. And it's horrible. It ruins society. And this is what they're doing. And by extension of all of this, they feminize men. They destroy family, union, collaboration, and so much more. And when they win, they will take over. Who's they? The elites, the higher-ups, the puppet masters, the people with the power. If you research some names and you probably won't be able to find them because you can't just find this stuff on Google. The thing is, one Google search doesn't just find you this stuff. But go look up BlackRock and go look at what they own. Just go see. Just go see what they own. And then try to find out who owns BlackRock and who are those people. If you can find the truth in that, that'll bring you down a rabbit hole. Okay? And what happens when all the men are secretly women? Okay? When men believe that they are somehow secretly women, or they cry daily, or they explain their emotions, or they act how they feel, okay? And they become physically and emotionally weak. And at that point, you don't have men anymore. You have no fight. You have no protection. All you have is a bunch of pussies with their tails between their legs. And once again, there's a really good quote from Sun Tzu, which is that, know thyself, know thy enemy. 1,000 battles, 1,000 victories. Victorious warriors win first and then go to war, while defeated warriors go to war first and then seek to win. The point is that the best way to go to war is to spiritually and emotionally go to war first and win the war already spiritually and emotionally, so that when you go, the war is already won. The battle is already fought. You see, when you make all the men weak, there's no more people who will fight. And look at our society. Look how many weak men wouldn't even want to go to war or stand up for their country, or couldn't even do that. Because they don't have that bravery, that courage that we had in the past. And so what happens now when finally, there's enough control, they take over. Let me ask you a question. Would you rather fight 1,000 trannies or 1,000 traditional men? Anyone in the right mind, right, if this was life or death situation, would give a very, very logical answer. I'd rather fight the trannies. They have less testosterone. They'd be less likely to kill me, right? And so think about that from a war perspective. And people are like, oh, Stefan, war, yeah, you're out to lunch. Fine, believe that all you want. But I can promise you those higher-ups, they have all the money in the world, they don't want money anymore. When you have all the money, when you can buy all the cars you want, eat all the food you want, you don't want money anymore. You want power, you want control. And that's what these people aim for. It's control, it's power. That's what feeds them. That's what they want, is they want everything to go their way. They want control. And so that's what they're trying to do, is feminize all these people so that they can have control over everyone. No one can fight back, right? When you have a bunch of people who are obedient slaves and just nod their head and say yes. Oh, there's a new virus going around. Stay in your house and get these shots. You don't know what they do. Oh, you can't go out unless you have a certain card. Oh, you can't leave the country anymore because of... That's what you get. You just get obedient slaves. Obedient little slaves. And when you have that, you can do whatever you want. So think about that from a war perspective. If nobody can fight back, well, then you win the war. Imagine if you go to war and there's nobody there. Okay, fine. Thank you. Right? Imagine you go to take over land and you go and everyone leaves. All right, cool. Right? That's what they're trying to do. Right? And I don't even want to get into this whole, like, LGB, whatever the fuck, conversation here. Because here's the thing. I have nothing against gay people. I'm not homophobic. Gay people, be gay all the fuck you want. You two dudes want to fuck, by all means. Don't do it in front of me. Like, go do it in your house. Right? That's totally fine. But the problem is we've got to a point where this idea of being gay has been misconstrued to something totally different now. Now it's a cult. Right? And even if you just... There's so many little aspects to this, but... These people, right, gay people, for example, they cannot reproduce. I don't care what anyone says. A man is a man, a woman is a woman, and whatever way that you're born, that's the way you are. And just because you say you're a fucking woman doesn't mean you can magically now carry a baby, right? It doesn't work that way. And any person with any fucking logic understands that, right? And so they cannot reproduce. And so the only way for them to grow their cult, right, and to extend their vision is by grooming little impressionable children, by brainwashing them. That's the only way for them to grow this cult. Also, once again, the more you have of this stuff, the more it divides a nation. And the more divided a nation is, the less unified they'll be, and therefore the easier it is to control and take over. Right? Because if everybody hates each other, no one will work together. Right? If you have a team where everybody absolutely hates each other, no one will work together to help each other out. And so therefore, how can they overthrow anyone ever if no one can work together? They can't. And so what they're doing is trying to turn everybody against each other. Therefore, there's no unified group. Everyone's like fighting for themselves. And it's so easy to control when nobody's together. That's why they're trying to ruin family as well by over-sexualizing little children to the point where later down the line they don't have family anymore. The world is fucked. The world is fucked up, and it's time to wake up. Okay? It's time to wake up. Like, you as a man, you can't control what happens everywhere in the world, but the only thing you can control is your own thoughts and what you do on a day-to-day basis. And the cool thing is it starts with you. Okay? We need to bring back masculine men again. Bring back traditional values where the men provide and protect for the people they love, for the woman. So that if someone were to rob your house, you don't sit there and cower behind your curtains hiding. You go, I got it, babe. You grab your gun and you go downstairs and do what you have to do as a man. I think women are the most beautiful, precious, absolute, incredible people on this planet, and they should be protected at all costs. Heck, if you even look fundamentally back into the olden days, what happened in war? The men would go fight, right, and to fight for whatever it is, their values, their land, whatever, and to fight for the women, to keep them safe. That's how it worked, right? Or even way back in the day, the men would go hunt with a spear, running around, the women would stay there and raise the children. That's how it worked. The men went to go provide and protect for the family. That's how it worked, and that's how it always will work on a fundamental level. Even if you look at biology and look at even animals, that's how it still works. Right? The woman, she raises the kids because she's better with kids. That's just how it is. And then goes out there and needs to provide and protect for the family. It's that simple. Right? And I think that we need to bring back hard work. We need to bring back discipline. We need to bring back stoicism. We need to bring back purpose. We need to bring back goals and ambition and bravery and every other masculine characteristic that mainstream media has tried to weaponize. It's funny because the problem nowadays isn't masculine men. As a matter of fact, there's none of them anymore. The problem is feminine men. The problem is these men who act out their emotions. When somebody shoots a school, it's not a stoic man doing that. It's a little emotional boy doing that. And that is a byproduct of us as a society propagating this idea that we as men should act on our emotions and cry and share how you feel and do all this stuff. But there's no honor in being a pussy. There is no honor in being a coward. There is no honor in being weak. There is no honor in being broke. There was no honor in any of those things. Back in the day, nobody would praise you for being weak. No one would praise you for being broke or being a coward. Nobody would praise you for hiding when someone came and intruded your house. Nobody would praise you for crying in front of your wife. Nobody would praise you for these things. Nobody would praise you for taking depression medication. But now they do. They encourage it, as a matter of fact. Take it, take it, take it. You are loved and so good if you take it. There's no honor, there's no pride in that. And so stop letting people convince you that there is. Okay? You, as a young man, have a duty. You have a duty to provide and protect for those you love. That is your duty as a man, regardless of how you feel. You have to do the things you know you need to do, regardless of how you feel, because how you feel should have no bearing on what you do. You think the people on the Titanic felt like dying? You think they went, oh yeah, let me just die. Whoopity-doo, I want to die. No, they did not. But they had a duty to make sure that the children and the women were taken care of. Because if they aren't, how is society going to grow? How will we ever reproduce if we don't take care of the children and the mothers and the females and the women? How will the society grow? It won't. That is why we must take such good care of them, because without them there is no future. The men on the Titanic didn't want to die, but they did, because they knew it was their duty to make sure that the women and the children were safe. And that is that. Okay? And nowadays, in a world where being masculine is weaponized to such a great extent, to the point where it almost, it's hard to be that, let alone how to do that, the best way to do this is surround yourself with testosterone-filled, eager, driven young men. That is the best way to do this, because you are simply a byproduct of everything in your life. What I mean by this is you are a byproduct. You are a summation of the people you talk to, the people you hang out with, the books you read, the shows you watch, the music you listen to, okay? The work you do, the gym you go to, the food you eat. Like, you are just a byproduct of all of those things. And so the better and the higher quality these things are, the better impact it will have on your life. If you only hung around with feminine women for the next 10 years, you would eventually become feminine. You would adopt those traits, because we as humans evolve and adapt, and we adapt to our current situation. If you're constantly with these women, you will end up more than likely becoming more feminine. If you spent the next 10 years with traditional masculine men like Andrew Tate, for example, you would, as a byproduct, become more masculine, because you adopt those characteristics and those traits. You are just the sum of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And so make sure the people you spend those times with are good quality people. One more thing I want to say is this idea of slavery being gone, which is not true. Right? Back in the olden day, how slavery worked is, to my limited knowledge, is that somebody would say, hey, I want you, whoop-de-doo, you work, I give you food and shelter, you have no choice, do the work. Very simplified, that's how it worked, right? Nowadays what they do is they say, hey, you work, and instead of giving you food and shelter, I will give you money. I'll give you a currency, which I'm not going to tell you, but I actually control, and so I can make it worth more, worth less, I can print more, I can print as many of this as I possibly can, right? You couldn't just magically print more apples, right, and houses, but you can print more money. And so what they've done is they've just substituted, instead of giving you food and shelter, they've just given you a currency which they control. Once again, power and control. And then you use all this money to buy food and shelter. But here's the thing. What they've done is really smart, is they've given you the illusion of choice, the illusion that you can go buy whatever you want and go whatever you want. They've given you the illusion. The reason why it's an illusion is because it's not entirely true. Because at any moment they could just print $20 trillion more dollars, and all of a sudden all the money you've worked for is now useless. Right? That's the equivalent of getting given an apple a day for the work, and now all of a sudden only give you a quarter of an apple a day. Well, that's not how it works. Back in the day, they would give you an apple a day, for example. But now they can do that, and they can lower the value. But now you have perceived freedom, because you have control over what you buy, right? Well, not really. Most people can barely even afford their food and their rent as it is, but they buy other things because they have freedom, and they go buy those things. They don't. The guy who actually made the American school system, John D. Rockefeller, had this quote, which is, "I don't want a nation of thinkers. I want a nation of workers." He didn't want people that could think for themselves. He didn't want that. He wanted people who could work and do the job. He didn't want creative people. He didn't want leaders. He wanted slaves. And the funny thing is that education system he built is the same one that we still run to this day. The one that creates workers, not thinkers. It's crazy. If you look at a phone 20 years ago, you look at a phone today, there's drastic differences. If you look at a car 50 years ago versus today, huge differences. Look at a classroom 50 years ago today and today. There's no difference at all. The only difference now is you might have drag queens in them. You don't believe me? Go search up drag queens in library. Search it up. It's incredible. It's absolutely insane. Like, the only thing that's changed now is we have put fake cosplaying mentally ill people to raise our children for us, because what they've done is they've made it that the only way you can raise a family is by working a ton of jobs so you can make money to provide for the family. And so while you're out 24/7 working, who's raising your kids? Right? Who's raising your kids? So think about this. Just think about this. Okay? A system that is designed to build workers, not thinkers, is the one that raises your children. Right? Nowadays, children are being raised by the school and educational systems because their parents are out working 24/7, barely able to afford food and rent. So let's ask this. Who runs the school system? What is their agenda? What is their objective? Well, we just talked about the quote of the guy who invented it in the first place. Right? Why are Chinese being brought in wearing nothing but some underwear, grooming these little children? Search it up. Drag queens in school library. You'll see. Think about that. Why is all this happening? Maybe this video will get taken down. I'm not sure. But all I know is that the best chance you have to fight this is to surround yourself with like-minded individuals. That is your best chance of fighting against this. So make sure the people that are in your circle, the people that you hang out with, are people that constantly push you, motivate you, and hold you accountable to become the best version of who you are. And if they don't do that, you need to find yourself a new circle ASAP. Be careful.